Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back again, and today, once again, we're going to be talking about the man himself, Dave Blunts. And I know, a lot of you are probably getting tired of hearing about this guy every day, and honestly, I am too, but don't blame me, the rap game is pretty boring right now. I mean, I think a lot of us really expected after 2024 with the whole war between Kendrick and Drake that a lot of things would change in the overall rap game, but overall, it hasn't really made a big difference. I mean, Kendrick is definitely a little bit more famous than he was before, and Drake's career definitely took a hit. However, we didn't really see any big changes when it came to the industry. They're still pumping out plants day after day after day, putting out artists that only seem to stick around for a couple of weeks, get a couple hit songs, and then completely fade away with no fan base to back them up. However, despite how short the attention span is of the average hip hop listener, somehow Dave Blunts has managed to capture it time and time again. I mean, he came straight into the game being an overweight rapper who really likes to sip lean, with a lot of people worrying about his health, thinking that he might pass away in only a couple years' time if he doesn't do something about it, with him kind of playing off all the paranoia that people had after Juice WRLD passed away. However, a gimmick like that really isn't going to give you a long-lasting career, so you would think that Dave would have had maybe 2 to 3 months in the rap game before once again fading away like Ian or Four Bats. Yeah, when's the last time that you thought about Four Bats? Probably not since 2024, and he's definitely not the only artist that got left behind in that year, but Dave Blunts is not one of them. Now, I've already made a video about him talking about how I thought the fat persona wouldn't really last that long and how it seemed like he was really overplaying and faking a lot of aspects of it. And in certain aspects, I think I was right. I mean, it's basically been confirmed that he doesn't sip lean at this point. He's way too coherent, and he actually ended up knocking over his cup on the No Jumper podcast, and it was completely empty. So yeah, he's probably not sipping lean.
So stupid. Hey Jesse, you give me something to drink? Mix the two things. Yeah, thanks.
However, when it comes to other aspects like getting up on stage with a breathing tank, I actually thought that was fake and he was overplaying it, but a lot of people actually believe that's real. On top of that, you also have the girl that he brought out on stage who was supposedly his girlfriend, only for her to then turn around and stab him in the back by talking shit about him in DMs, with a random fan no less, which really came off as a publicity stunt as well. But after looking a little bit deeper into it, I think that might have actually been true, and that's kind of the genius of Dave Blunts. You never really know what's being played up and what's actually accurate, leading people to speculate and talk about him more, which he only then plays to his advantage, getting more and more attention. However, it seems like the whole being obese thing definitely has run its course. I mean, he's constantly in the hospital, and all of his comments turn from people supporting him and wanting him to get better to now having people completely pissed off that he keeps going there and isn't taking care of his health. So with one gimmick no longer working and getting the attention that it used to, he's now going to have to come up with something new if he wants people to keep tuning into his music, because after all, at this point, Dave Blunts has definitely put himself in a box where he's going to have to constantly one-up himself if he wants people to pay attention. I mean, his music is not bad by any means, it's a little bit generic, but let's be honest, if it was coming out of any other artist besides him, I don't think people would really be listening the way that they are now. And I think we all expected that after the whole being a morbidly obese rapper gimmick ran its course, that he would simply lose all the weight and go on to be a skinny rapper, which would once again bring people's eyes back onto him. But unfortunately, with him being 600 pounds, it's going to take a lot of time and effort to really lose the weight. I mean, we've seen this pulled off by people like Mario Judah and Nikocado Avocado, but the two of them had to disappear for like 2 years' time without dropping any music or appearing in the public eye for people to not notice the weight loss. So if Dave Blunts wanted to do something similar, he would also have to disappear. And I think we all know that's not going to happen, because if there's one thing in this world that Dave Blunts is more addicted to than both lean and food, it's definitely attention. And if people are going to be hating on him anyways for being overweight, he might as well play into that character and start to really piss people off, starting off by getting into a beef with another artist, the rapper formerly known as Kankan. Now apparently he doesn't really make music anymore, he's more of a fashion designer now, but he still goes on Twitter and gets into beef with people on a daily basis, so it wasn't long before he ended up crossing paths with the infamous Dave Blunts. It all kicked off when a random fan on Twitter ended up saying, "I'd like to see a picture of Dave Blunts in a pair of Amiris," with Kankan responding to that by saying that's like trying to destroy an atom, basically saying that he's fat and that he can't fit in the pants, which is definitely pretty disrespectful, but I feel like Dave Blunts knows that he's fat at this point, so he probably wouldn't respond to that, right? But let's be honest, a clout chaser is not going to let an opportunity like this pass them by, so he immediately took to his story saying, "LOL Kankan, the type of women you like are not actually women, please leave me alone, I know too much," and then he goes on to post a laughing emoji and a rainbow emoji, basically implying that Kankan likes women who might have been men at a certain point, or trying to say he's gay, one or the other. And I think this is the first time that we've seen Dave Blunts openly take take a jab at gay people. I mean, he's definitely said the F slur in his prior music, but that's not necessarily aimed at gay people. He could just be saying it for shock value. However, to be fair, he did call him fat first, so it kind of makes sense that he would come back at him in this way. I mean, that's basically what everybody does in the underground scene. If you piss them off, they're going to call you gay. It's just par for the course. However, Dave would take it to the next level when he ended up commenting on one of Kankan's posts on Instagram saying she was 15, you were 20. And if you're not sure what he's referring to here, a couple years back, Kankan actually got caught in bed with another underground artist going by the name of Molly Santana when she was like 15 years old. Now, it didn't seem like they were actually doing anything in the picture, but just the fact that they were in bed together was pretty weird. But at the time that story came out, nobody really looked all that deep into it. He mostly got clowned on Twitter for like a day before people completely forgot about it, thinking that it wasn't all that big of a deal, as after all, there was no proof that he actually did anything to her and she wasn't making any accusations against him. However, that narrative would shift in the following year when it came out that she was actually in bed with another underground rapper when she was even younger, going by the name of Zillakami, and this guy got accused of a lot of pretty serious stuff, and a lot of that stuff involved underage girls, so that would definitely bring some more scrutiny back onto Kankan. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, why was she in bed with both of them? She was 15 years old. It's really not right to blame her in that situation. These guys were both grown men. They should have known better. And I'm not going to lie, in most cases, I really don't mess with rappers using accusations as a gotcha in a beef, but when it comes to this situation, I mean, Kankan definitely was in bed with her. There's no really disputing that, so Dave didn't really say anything out of pocket, at least not yet. After that, he goes on to comment Molly Santana has entered the chat, making it explicit who he's talking about, before then going on to preview a diss track on Kankan, which is definitely marketing genius, I'm not gonna lie. He gets the beef cooked up, everybody's talking about it, and then he immediately drops music. That's a good way to get people constantly talking about you, and it actually drew the attention of another underground rapper going by the name of Summers. Now, he ended up commenting a bunch of laughing emojis, which to me would be interpreted as him laughing about the diss track, thinking that it's funny that he's making fun of Kankan, but you gotta keep in mind that Summers and Kankan are actually friends, so he's probably laughing at the fact that Dave is trying to come at him. And then this drew the attention of yet another underground rapper going by the name of Jace. Now, apparently Dave and Jace have actually worked on music in the past before, so he's taking to Dave Blunt's defense by coming at Summers saying, get your watch back. Summers then responds to that by putting another laughing emoji, leading Jace to respond by saying, I'm in the same city as you. Now, I'm not really sure what the beef between these two are. I do know at one point that Jace was accused of actually snitching on Summers and getting him in trouble, and I think it actually was confirmed that he did that. So it makes sense why Summers doesn't like Jace, and Jace basically likes to beef with everybody for attention, so it seems like the gravitational pull of Dave Blunt's is bringing every underground rapper together to all fight with each other. But it seems like this also caught the attention of Dave because he immediately hopped on his story by saying, I just want to know what's so funny, Summers. Let me know something. We laughing at your allegations with young ones, or we laughing at how your man's Kankan walk around with a bundle of sticks. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually know that Summers had allegations as well, but I'm not surprised because basically everybody in the underground has allegations at this point, although I do feel like Dave is moving a little bit recklessly here. I mean, I get it, the two of them are beefing, and of course Summers was the one being disrespectful first, so Dave is allowed to respond in any way that he sees fit, and of course with him getting a lot of attention online from this beef, he's gonna say the most outrageous shit that he can come up with to get even more attention. I just feel like you gotta be a little bit careful when you're throwing allegations around like that. I mean, I don't know what Summers did or didn't do, but I know there's gonna come a time in Dave Blunt's own career where he's probably gonna get accused of something, and if you're known for throwing out random allegations at everybody that you have an issue with, when the time comes for you to get caught in your own shit, people aren't really gonna have a whole lot of sympathy for you. However, at this point I wouldn't really expect anything less from Dave Blunt. He basically says whatever he wants whenever he wants to, which is something we're gonna start to see more and more as this video goes on, but for right now let's get back to the beef. So after this, it didn't go a whole lot further. Kankan basically hopped into Dave Blunt's DMs responding to his story by saying, Dave, we just want to see you wearing that Amiri, with him responding by saying, Kankan, we just want to see you live your truth, sending a bunch of rainbow emojis, basically once again implying that Kankan is gay. So at this point, Dave Blunt really only has to DM him back and say that he's going to show up to his city and punch him out, and then he's got the underground rapper beef starter kit completely completed. I mean, I can't lie, I think everybody's a little bit entertained when two underground rappers start going back and forth online, but for the most part, it always seems like they say the same two things over and over again. You're gay and I'm gonna fight you. But at least Dave had a little bit more tact when it came to this beef, which is not gonna be a common trend. Because a couple months after this all went down, Dave Blunt ended up dropping a track called First Day Out of the Hospital, where he had a couple bars poking fun at Kankan, and honestly, I'm just gonna play it for you because, well, it's kinda out of pocket.
And Kankan talking shit, but I heard he like lady boys. And Kankan fuck with transgender. He might be a gay. He might be
So yeah, as you can see at this point, all subtlety is completely out of the window. He's pretty explicitly saying that Kankan is gay and that he also fucks with transgender people, which I don't know about that one, Chief. It sounds kind of contradictory. I mean, if he's going after lady boys, that means he likes ladies. There's nothing wrong with the chick with the dick. And while this wouldn't start any more drama with Kankan, with him being basically moved on from the situation at this point, it definitely did piss off quite a few people in Dave's audience, with them saying that he's now being homophobic and transphobic, which is not a good look in the modern day. However, as we already know on the modern day internet, as soon as you start to get a little bit of pushback, you gotta double down time and time again, because Dave Blunt's actually got the chance to go to Rolling Loud, and apparently somebody at the venue told him that he couldn't perform that song and say that line. He would have to censor himself because it was offensive, which I could kind of believe. I mean, after all, if you guys remember what DaBaby did back in 2020, where he came out on stage and said a bunch of stuff about people sucking dick in the parking lot, that completely ruined his career. But when it comes to Dave Blunt's, I feel like if you're booking him, you already know what to expect. And he would kind of go back and forth with this for a while, saying that he wasn't sure if he was going to say the line or not. But of course, as you already know, Dave Blunt's is not going to miss the opportunity to get talked about, so he ended up going on stage and saying the line anyways, which honestly I don't really have a big issue with. I mean, after all, he wrote the song that way, so of course when he's performing, he's going to say it the way that it's written. I mean, the reason that DaBaby got in trouble is because he went on a completely unprompted random rant about gay people that had nothing to do with his music. If he had simply written a song about how much he hates gay people, he probably could have got away with it. I mean, I don't know about that, but who knows, honestly. And this Rolling Loud performance would be a defining moment in Dave Blunt's career, because at this point, he kind of cut his audience into two, and he's kind of closed himself off from really bringing in any new fans from certain audiences. Although, to be fair, I'm not really sure how many gay fans that he had in the first place, with him saying the F slur in almost every single song. That probably already scared most of them away, so it wasn't really a big deal at the time. But unfortunately, when it comes to Dave Blunt's, as soon as he sees something working, he decides to double, triple, and quadruple down on that. And I think this is where he's starting to run into trouble, because before this point, it's been all good-natured fun and games. There's been a little bit of beef, maybe a couple people getting offended, but Dave Blunt seemed to be still pretty universally loved by most of the hip-hop audience. But with him now realizing that he could get even more attention by pissing people off by putting slurs in his music and saying offensive stuff, he decided to double down on that by dropping an entire album called Dude You Can't Say That, which is basically 20 full songs of racial slurs. I mean, you got a song on there called Diddy Game, you got a bunch of hard R's in there, of course he's saying the F slur, and overall, I really feel like it kind of hurts the music. I mean, I'm not personally offended by it, I don't really care what he says, but it does come off as kind of corny. I mean, there's kind of a recipe when it comes to edgy humor, and most importantly, shock humor. Basically, if you use it sparingly, then people are going to pay attention, but if you're constantly saying offensive things to try to get people to pay attention to you, eventually it's going to come off as white noise. And I definitely think that Dave played his hand a little bit too early when it came to this album. If he really wanted to go down this path, which probably wasn't a good idea in the first place, he should have done it slower. He should have put a little bit of an offensive joke here, he should have done something outrageous there, done it month after month after month, before them putting out an album with maybe a couple offensive songs that really get people talking. Because with the whole album just being 20 songs of complete dribble, you basically get the joke with the first track, and for people who actually like his music outside of the controversy, it's probably also going to scare them away, because nobody's going to be riding around in their car listening to some of this stuff. On top of that, you're also going to close yourself off from radio play, probably getting your music played in the clubs. I'm not really sure if Dave Blunt gives a shit about any of that, but at the same time, there's no real reason to close doors that you don't have to. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is definitely getting him a lot of short-term attention, and his career has definitely gone on longer than I would have ever expected, but at this point, he's basically done the most shocking thing that he can, and after this, he's going to have to one-up it time and time again, which is going to become increasingly more difficult. I mean, Dave should have learned from prior rappers who have done similar things. I mean, we had people like Lil Pump, Boot Gang, 6ix9ine all coming out in the SoundCloud era, basically trying to get attention by beefing with people, pissing people off, and anything they could just to get a couple more clicks on Instagram. However, this very rarely ever turned into a long-lasting career. I think the person who did it best was 6ix9ine, and even he only got about 14 months in the game before he lost it all by getting locked up. And to be fair, if he never got locked up, his career might have lasted a little bit longer, but if 6ix9ine in 2020 is anything to go off of, I think eventually people would have got tired of him him as well, as much as that pains me to say, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Dave Blunts. There's only so many ways that you can piss a person off before they just completely get tired of you and stop paying attention, and if the industry stops pushing him down everybody's throats, he will eventually fade away as well. And on top of that, he can't even really do edgy humor all that well because he also is pretty sensitive when it comes to himself, as he actually ended up getting into a beef with Blackboy Max, who's the screamer who basically put him on in the first place, with Dave initially going on his live stream back in 2024 to make a song together, which ended up popping him off into the big rapper that he is nowadays. And apparently Max actually wanted to have him back on a couple other streams, although Dave wasn't really messing with the ideas that he came up with. And I can kind of understand why he turned down the first idea, which was him coming on a live stream and being a Black Santa, because apparently some guys from FaZe Clan were going to sit on his lap, which is kind of weird. I wouldn't want to do that either. However, the other idea of him being a judge for a cooking show doesn't seem like all that bad of an idea, but apparently Dave felt very offended by this, saying that he only wants to go on the live stream to make more music and he doesn't want to do things that are going to poke fun at his weight. With him going on to say that he's an artist, he makes music, he wants to keep the attention on his music and not his weight.
But he just doesn't like me, bro. Like, I don't know why he does not like me. He just be inviting me back to do streams. Weird shit.
Like what?
Like, he was like, hey, bro, do you want to be a judge on the cooking show? You invited me to something big? Like, I'm an artist. You know, I make music. He invited me to be the FaZe Santa Claus. I'm an artist, bro. Like, you don't invite D Savage there to do that shit. You don't invite Ian there to do that shit.
Which would actually be respectable if it was any other artist besides Dave Blunts. Because I mean, come on, dude, your entire career is about your weight. You can't seriously sit on a high horse and say, I don't want to do anything weight related, I only want to talk about music, when within your music you also talk about being fat. Apparently making fun of people is okay as long as it doesn't come back on him, which is the absolute worst type of hypocrisy you can have when it comes to edgy humor, because if you're making fun of everybody and talking about everything that's wrong with them, but they can't say anything about you without you throwing a fit, well, it's not going to end well. I keep seeing people say that Dave has really thick skin and he doesn't get offended by any of the jokes made about him, but is that actually true? Because it seems like he only gets offended by the jokes made about him. I mean, he only started beefing with Kankan because he called him fat, and while most of us assume they only did that for attention, it's totally possible that Dave was actually pissed off about this. Not to mention all the girls that come in and out of his life, it seems like he only does that for attention as well, but he's constantly making music and post about how much he hates the women in his life, so it kind of makes sense that this might actually be more accurate than we think. And once again, I'm not offended by this. You can say whatever you want, but all I'm saying is that if you're going to dish it out, you should be able to take it as well. And it seems like when it comes to Dave Blunts, he really can't. However, this seems to be the path that he's deciding to walk, and there's really no turning back at this point because he's actually decided to start working heavily with Kanye, which I understand. I mean, Kanye is definitely a legendary artist, and if you get the chance to make music with him, I wouldn't really turn it down either. However, it doesn't really seem like Dave is doing this because he's a massive fan of Kanye. He only seems to be doing this because, well, as you already know, Kanye's been crashing out in a big way over the course of like 15 years, let's be honest. Everybody's saying that it's only been recently, but he's been doing this throughout his entire career. Although recently it's definitely got a lot worse, with him constantly talking about how much he hates a certain type of person. He actually got an iced out swastika chain recently, as well as him putting on a Klan's hood and doing an interview with DJ Academics. And if you're wondering why I'm not hopping on the trend of talking about Kanye's recent crazy activity on this channel, it's honestly because I find it pretty sad. I mean, there's nothing really to say about it. It's just a very pathetic man who's desperately trying to get attention by any means. And don't get me wrong, Kanye is definitely in my top 3 of the greatest rappers of all time, but when it comes to his activity, it's once again basically white noise. Am I really going to be shocked when he once again says something offensive about Jews or talks about how he hates gay people or so on and so on? This era of the internet where everything seems to be completely one way or the other is getting very tiresome. I mean, I don't get offended when people make edgy jokes, but when you're trying so hard to piss people off by saying anything you can, it just gets old. And I think it really comes off as a desperate cry by an artist who really isn't in his prime anymore. He's basically completely fried his brain with whippets and he can't make music as well as he used to. So instead he has to default over to making shocking music, which has a very short shelf life and will be mostly forgotten in the coming months. However, seeing as how famous Kanye is, it means a lot of YouTubers and commentators will make videos talking about how crazy he's gotten, which brings in a lot of money and views, and then in turn Kanye only gets more and more famous, basically making this vicious cycle where he never stops doing crazy things because he never stops getting attention for it. And just overall, I don't really want to feed into that. I'm not saying that I'm holier than thou or that I wouldn't make a video like that about somebody like Space Ghost Perp, but when it comes to Kanye, I just don't find it interesting. And I think looking at it as anything else besides a clown show is really the wrong way to interact with him. If you're getting getting offended by him, well, you're doing it wrong. And if you're agreeing with him, well, you're doing it wrong. He's doing this because he wants attention. So give him his attention if you want, but interacting with it is pointless. But it seems like Dave Blunt's really wants to attach himself onto this because recently Kanye's been working on a new album going by the name of World War III, which he later changed to Cuck. Are you allowed to say Cuck on YouTube? I hope so. And while the project isn't out yet, there is one single that ended up dropping, which was basically about Kanye having a weird relationship with his cousin when he was younger, which of course got people talking again. I mean, Kanye's already done racism, anti-Semitism, he's already talked about how he wants to free Diddy, so of course incest definitely seems like the next step on that list. After this, he's probably going to talk about how he's actually a cannibal or something like that. But anyways, the relevance of that song is apparently that Dave Blunt wrote it. In fact, he apparently wrote the entire album, so all the offensive shit that's going to be said on this project is once again going to be written by Dave Blunt, only getting him more attention, but once again further boxing him in. And I seriously don't understand why Dave decided to go down this path. I mean, it makes sense for somebody who's very late into their career, who's really not going to get any more attention onto their music no matter what they do. So they decide to go completely red pill, start saying a bunch of crazy shit to get people's attention, and then they build up a certain audience of people who really care about free speech. However, Dave Blunt had other options. He didn't have to do this. There was many different ways that he could have caught people's attention and had a longer lasting career. But at this point, I think he's going to run this dry. And then after that, I don't really think there's going to be a way for him to one up himself, unless maybe he starts going on political podcasts and talking about how much he really hates Jewish people. But honestly, I don't even think that he would do that because I really don't think he believes in any of that shit. He's simply doing it because he knows that it gets people's attention. I mean, maybe he knew that his career wasn't going to last that long, so he decided to maximize on everything when he could because he knew the gold rush wasn't going to last for longer than a year. Or maybe he truly does believe that this is the right choice to make. But for me, I gotta say, I really don't think it is. I think he should have continued to do what he was doing, maybe keep beefing with more underground artists as well as doing a couple more shocking stunts, but taking it this far is just gonna piss people off and turn people away. But that's just my opinion, and honestly, what do I know? I mean, I already thought that he'd be falling off at this point, but he's somehow managed to stick around. If I had to predict it, I would say in the next couple years he's gonna start pulling antics like the Island Boys. I'm not saying that he's gonna kiss his brother. I don't even know if he has a brother, but he's probably gonna open an OnlyFans and then he's gonna come out as gay for, attention and clicks, and then after that he's probably gonna get in trouble with the law and get a mugshot. However, it's not like that's gonna keep him relevant. He's probably gonna end up like Little Pump, where you see a headline about him once or twice a year, and then besides that you pretty well forget about him. And that's probably the path that Dave Blunt is gonna go down. It's either that or he's gonna end up like Tom McDonald, and honestly, if I had to pick between Little Pump and Tom McDonald, I'm taking Lil Pump every time. But anyways, guys, that's the update on Dave Blunt. What do you think about this whole situation? Are you still a fan? Are you offended by him? Let me know in the comments below. And if you don't want to say anything like that, simply say delete this. Delete this gang is stronger than ever, and I can't wait to see all the comments on this one. And if you really enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 30K. But with all that said, I will see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye.